Greetings to all the What's Case researchers. My name is Evelyn, and the first and the main thing I want you to know is that I'm not a Shannon hater. I don't hate her or something like that. I just want to analyze the whole situation to understand why did that happen and how can other women be able to recognize the danger which can come from the closest person you have beside you. I've been watching Meredith Toussaint's channel for last, I guess, 4 days, and I'm not agree with Meredith when she says that Shanann was starving her kids, when Meredith says that Shanann is a narcissist who was humiliating her kids. No, I think she wasn't doing that on purpose. In some points, I agree with Meredith, but in some points, I'm not. And as I know, there is a conclusion which says that Chris actually had some kind of narcissistic disorder. I'm not a psychiatrist or even psychologist, so I'm not that strong in diagnostic. And I thought when I first time heard the story, I was like, oh God, there is something in this case, just screaming out that something was wrong. It's like if you're playing with a bear and the bear bites you while playing, will you be surprised? You know, I'm from Estonia. Estonia is a post-Soviet country, and the third part of people living in my country are Russians. And that's weird for me when Shanann by herself tells that Chris is doing all the laundry. Chris is driving girls to school or daycare, and Chris is doing everything. Chris, as we know, Chris was the only person in the family who had a real job because Shanann, what was she doing actually? She was spending money which Chris earned. She spent those money to buy those products, those Thrive. I'm not good in MLM and I don't know those small things, but I know that Shanann had to pay for working, and that's fucking nonsense. No one has to pay to do. No one has to pay to do any work. And I know in MLM it's called like pay to play, and that's what makes people that's the thing that makes people obsessed. People want to be a part of this rich and successful community, and they are ready to spend money. And in Shanann's case, as I see, that's my opinion, Shanann just didn't want to hear what her husband wants. She didn't want to know what her kids needed, and she was a big liar because her autopsy told that she didn't have a lupus. So she was lying about that. She was lying about her fertility. She told Chris that she cannot have kids, and that was lie. Everything was a big lie. And the whole picture of the happy family, that happy family actually never existed, because when you're treating your husband like he's nothing, when you use your kids only to sell your products online, that will never bring you to any good result. And of course, when Chris met Nikki, he fell in love with her. And when people say that that's her fault, she's guilty, and Nikki Kessinger must be in prison. No, what's her fault? She never knew. She never knew that Chris even can do something like that. And Chris had a big problem in him. He just that type of person who can barely talk about his feelings. And I understand him at this point, because it's much easier for me not to explain something. I understand him because it's easier for me to give for nothing than to bargain. And sometimes it's easier for me to fulfill a stupid request than to explain why I can't do that. But you know, if you have to fulfill those stupid requests every day, your emotions will just be piling up, and someday you will explore. And when I mean you will explore, I don't mean that to be like a snap. Oh, excuse me, not explore, but explode. That's one more detail. People talking about what's murder, the what's case, people always say that Chris didn't snap, because people don't snap in 2 or even more weeks, because there is information he told. I don't remember where it comes from, that Chris was planning those murders for a few days or even weeks, so he didn't snap. But when I'm talking about snapping in this situation, that came from the moment when something happened, because his emotions were piling up and they were boiling already, and someday he just made a conclusion that would be better for him, because I can imagine what he was thinking about. It was like, look at her parents, they would and that's okay when parents defend their kids, but this whole situation with how Shanann spent money, her parents didn't tell her anything. They just took one more credit for her. Her father took it, and Chris couldn't leave, and we understand that. If he would divorce her, those people like Shanann, they never let their husbands go away. And you can just watch her when she met Chris, and I agree with Meredith that Shanann saw that, oh, Chris, he has a good job, he has like stable money, and of course she felt in love. She felt in love with his bank account, I think so, and it was a plan. I think Shanann was some kind of hustler. She was searching for a bank account she can use for her self presentation in social media, and if she was alive, and I think she could be a great influencer, but unfortunately Chris made a bad decision. But I understand how desperate he was, and I think when Shanann went to her 5 weeks trip, yes, he found out all this money shit that they are bankrupt again, and he was enraged, of course, and due to his non-ability to show his feelings, to talk about his feelings, that's why it went wrong. And it's just impossible for me when I watch those documentaries, and when I when I read those messages Shanann wrote to her friend about how cold Chris was during a few last weeks before the murder, and she's texting her friend that Chris doesn't hug her anymore, and he don't communicate with kids like he used to do. And yes, I agree with Meredith that Shanann actually wasn't too much babysitting or too much parenting her own kids, and Chris was doing a big part of that. And of course she noticed that it's something wrong, but she noticed that too late, because I believe that Chris was involved to all the kids stuff, and I think he was doing that to the last moment, and then only when Chris stopped parenting that good as he did before, only then Shanann noticed that something is wrong with him. And of course, when people say that if your husband is doing sports and he started to do it immediately, yes, that's a reason to talk to your husband. But as we know, Shanann preferred to take her phone and to talk to her friends, not to her own husband. And that's sad. I'm laughing or smiling, but the whole story is sad. And I'm not American, I'm not English, and I live in Eastern Europe, and I know this story. Can you just imagine how crazy this whole story is? Even on another side of the ocean, people feel that. So what's the point of my speech? No, Chris did a bad thing. He's made the worst decision he could do. Yes, he had time to change his mind, even after the moment when Shanann was dead, but girls were still alive, and he could just let them out, and he had 45 minutes to think about his daughters, his own girls, and he did the bad choice. And unfortunately, those kids are not with us anymore. And of course, Shanann didn't deserve what Chris did to her, and no one deserves. Chris is a monster, and there is no doubt he is. But still, if someone becomes a victim of a murder, it doesn't mean that this person is saint. No. And for me, the Watts case is just another instruction how to call out evil spirits, because we all can see that Chris was harmless. He never fighted Shanann. He never said a bad word to her. And it just happened. If you live in a family, you must pay attention to all your family members, because if you prefer to communicate with people from internet and you ignore your family members, your family would feel miserable, and that's not fair anyway. So just be more kind to your relatives, and then I think nothing bad would happen. I wish you to have a good day. I wish you good luck, and thumbs up. Bye.